right, welcome to the Music Scene Podcast. I am your host, Dave Cudrak. Today we'll be talking to the very talented Tim Murray. He is originally from the north central area of Pennsylvania, but is currently a musician residing here in South Jersey. The main reason for this podcast is to introduce listeners to the immense talent that we have here in South Jersey. I firmly believe that the music scene that we have here is a very vibrant one. It is growing. And, I want to not only introduce fans to new musicians, but also introduce local musicians to other local musicians so we can go ahead and continue to build this network and build this music scene. In our conversation with Tim, we talked a little bit about background, where music started for him. He is primarily a country singer, but his roots are based in kind of 90s grunge and rock. We talked a little bit about his songwriting process and him working with a record label down in Nashville. Touched on some things that he had go viral and what that experience was like, as well as his military background. He's not only a father and a husband, but he is also a Marine. He's got a lot going on, but he's making it happen. Make sure you stick around for the end of the interview because Tim does a very special acoustic performance of his song, Learning How to Lose, and it is phenomenal. You will absolutely love it, I guarantee. Anyway, here is my conversation with Tim. So anyway, Tim Murray, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. This podcast is really around trying to give South Jersey musicians another avenue to promote themselves and give people a chance to get to know you better. With that being said, when did you first start playing music?
So I think I've always really been interested in music. I mean, I remember being like a kid, like really little, and I don't know, something sticks in my head. Like, do you remember like the first song you ever heard?
Yes, I do.
So like, I go back to the first song that I ever heard, and it was sitting in the back of my dad's, I think it was Subaru at the time, and it was a Goo Goo Dolls Iris on the radio.
Nice.
Because when that was around, it was playing like all the time on the radio.
Yeah.
And I think that was like when I first started thinking I could sing and all that kind of stuff. But I picked up a guitar when I was 14. I think it was 14. Just bought it off a friend of mine. My dad gave me like $50 or whatever it was to buy this guitar. Yeah, he kind of told me, he said, hey, I'll buy this for you. You better play it. But if you don't play it, I'm gonna sell it. So I was like, yeah, I'll play it. Well, that lasted about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then my parents were split at the time. So the guitar was at my mom's, and I let it sit, and it was sitting for like a couple months. And one day my dad dropped us off, and he came into the house and said, hey, can I get that guitar? I'm going to sell it. And I was like, please don't sell it. I'll learn it. And then I sat down and just started learning. That was before, they had guitar tabs online. But the internet was still wired internet, so
right.
I'm sitting there at the computer. My mom probably heard smoke in the water like half a million times.
Same. I think everybody learns that one kind of first, or at least something close to it.
Yeah, it probably didn't sound quite like it for a while. That and Seven Nations Army, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Stripes,
Nice.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. That's awesome. Now, how did you learn that stuff? Did you just listen to it over and over again?
Yeah, I listened to it, and then, that was before, I think maybe LimeWire was around, but, that was about it. So it was, CDs, and then listened to it, and, like I said, the tabs. Tabs were big, because I didn't have any lessons. We didn't have the money growing up to send me to lessons. And so I was just sitting there. I'll be honest, I got grounded. Probably around that time, I'm 14, 15, I got grounded for an extended period.
What'd you do?
I had a house party when my dad was away.
Nice.
14, 15, probably not a good thing to do. But I was basically, I could go to work. I was working on a farm, a produce farm, 15. I could go to work and I could go back in the garage. So I'd go back in the garage and just play and play and play.
Nice.
Over and over and over again. And I think Last Kiss by Pearl Jam was the first song I ever learned full, because I started to put the idea of chords together.
Yeah.
Didn't really understand that concept, but after a couple times you start putting your fingers on the fretboard in the same places, you're like, oh, this comes up a lot, and so does this one, and so does that one. Nice. And so that was the first full song I learned, and then just progressed from there, and then I'd play for my friends. You know, throughout high school, that was kind of like the party gig. I was.
And were you singing too, or were you just playing guitar?
I was just playing guitar. I started trying to sing. I think it's just hard to, at that age, to understand where your voice is supposed to be, because you're trying to mimic so much.
Right.
You know, I was trying to be, you know, I was big into the rock music of that time, like the early 2000s, so like 3 Days Grace and Breaking Benjamin. So I was always trying to gear this barely out of puberty voice to sing these deep, you know, parts of songs, and it just wasn't working out at all. But, you know, I think I probably started really trying to sing and play around like 16.
Okay.
You know, obviously you're a 16-year-old that can play a guitar and sing, like, that was kind of cool, you know. I couldn't play video games. I wasn't really good at sports, but I could do that.
Cool. So, what was the first song, if you remember, the first song you ever learned to sing and play at the same time? Because I know that's always a tricky thing for younger or more amateur musicians or beginner musicians to sing and play at the same time.
I think honestly, it became Last Kiss, like, because I got used to playing it. I think that was the first song I learned how to play all the way through and sing it.
Nice.
You know, and the biggest thing was it was an easy strumming pattern, and it was like an easy chords to go through, because, like, you know, the melody's not super hard.
Right.
So that was the first one, and then from there it was just, you know, a bunch of mostly rock music, a little bit of country music, but I'd say like it was more so like that rock scene, because that's what I was into as a kid.
Yeah, that's cool. And that's interesting, because, you know, those of you that are listening that don't know, Tim is primarily a country musician now, at least in my opinion, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would say so. You know, they have that term Americana. It's thrown out there. It's kind of like a blanket for people that they don't really know what to put a label on. But I would say I'm a country influenced. You know, it's the stuff I kind of gravitate to. It's probably because I relate to it the most. Just the way that it's sung. But I still like if you're in my car on the way to work, it's pretty heavy metal music.
Nice. Same here, actually.
By staring at me, they hear it coming out the window. Like, what kind of stuff is this guy going through right now? He's so angry. Nice. And I'm just enjoying the morning coffee, driving to work.
There you go. I remember you had made a comment before, because I forget exactly where we were, maybe an open mic or something, and you said to me that you would play the hard rock stuff, and then you kind of, I don't want to say discovered country, but you kind of got into country because it was kind of the same message behind the lyrics, you know, sadness and stuff like that, but then it was a little bit more mellower, right?
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, the delivery was a lot easier, and, you know, I've never really been a part of a band. I mean, I played with guys in high school. We didn't really ever do much with it.
Sure. I think everybody has, yeah.
Yeah, right. A couple guys got together, but you know, when I started to write music, I think that's probably why I gravitated more towards that, because sitting down with a guitar, and then, you know, I'll always have like things in my mind when you write songs, like, oh, I hope this would be cool here, but when it's just you, like that was kind of like felt like my form.
Okay. That's just kind of what came out when you were writing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't really, you know, I think for a while when I first started writing music, I think I wrote my first song, I was probably 18.
Oh, wow.
Like, when I wrote my first song, and I thought it was pretty good at the time. I look back and cringe, but, you know, I don't even, I think that was more like a blend of the rock, country, you know, kind of Americana, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
But yeah, kind of just, my style just progressed from there, and, you know, and I think it's one of those things, I tried to be somebody else, and I tried to write a hit song.
Yep.
You know, what I've learned is, like, you know, you can try as much as you want to write a hit song, you know, but it's only, if it could be a hit to you, but, you know, to anybody else. Like, if you're trying to impress other people with your music, if that's like your main goal, then you're in the wrong line of work.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I've been guilty of it too. I mean, I don't have a long history of writing, but when I do sit down and kind of think like, oh, what will people like? Whatever comes out is always crap.
Yeah.
You know, you got to really stay true to yourself and write as honestly as you can, right?
Exactly. Because you want the song to speak for itself. And, you know, I think a lot of times people get wrapped up in, they listen to it so many times, or they make a lot of adjustments, and it's okay to be like, you should be your own critic. Like, you know, I like to sleep on songs a lot, you know, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish I could change this and that, but if the context and the quality isn't true to who you are, and you're just going out there because you think other people are gonna like it, then it's gonna be hard, because maybe you'll get one or two of those, but
right,
you know,
right, yeah.
Yeah, in my experience at least.
Do you write a lot? Like, how many songs do you think you've written? Ballpark.
I've probably written good and bad.
Yeah.
Probably good and bad. Probably about 50 plus.
Okay. Nice.
I mean, I've written tons of. I mean, anybody who writes can say I've written tons of half songs.
Sure.
You know,
sure.
stuff I've just. I'll get back to that, and then it sits in my iPhone notes or in a notebook for years.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, you know, I heard one time you had to throw out 100 bad ones to get one good one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think it's true. It's like you got to write them all. You can't just write the good songs. You have to write the bad songs too.
Yeah. That it reminds me of something that I saw Ed Sheeran say in an interview one day. He said, like, songwriting is like turning on an old faucet, right? The water comes out, it's brown and disgusting and all, but you leave it on long enough, the water clears up. And then occasionally you might get the brown stuff out again. It's kind of like songwriting, right? When you first start, it's all mostly going to be garbage, right? And then you'll get better at it and better at it. The water will clear up, you know, and then occasionally you might still have a crap song sneak in every now and then, you know. But yeah, it's like a muscle that you have to develop, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's cool. So as far as songwriting goes, what is your method? Like, do you write lyrics first? Do you write music first? Does it change up depending on kind of what you're feeling? Where do the song ideas come from? You know, do you sit down and try to come up with an idea, or sometimes does inspiration just kind of hit you at random times?
Yeah, I think it's like a mix of everything. You know, some guys have this regimen, like John Prine, one of my favorite all-time songwriters. You know, he would rent a room out in I forget what hotel in Nashville for like a week, and he would just pen himself up there and write. You know, sometimes that works for guys. For me, it's like I do so much stuff outside of just music.
Sure.
You know, with work and school, and my family and stuff. You know, I have to take it when it comes to me. So a lot of times it's lyrics first.
Okay.
You know, I'll have some kind of line in my head, and then I'll write it down in my notes, and then later on I'll go down, I'll try to put some music behind it. But there has been times where I'm like, man, this is a really cool chord progression. And sometimes I'll be lucky enough where I can go back on my notes and be like, that fits with this.
Nice.
You know? But for me, and I think if you listen to a lot of songs I've, like, even, you know, I only got a few recorded, I always try to change it up. I don't like to, you know, some guys, like, will stick to, like, one key, and some guys, but I always like to diversify the music, because I think, you know, stuff starts to sound the same. Just to me personally, I'm like, I don't want it to sound, this kind of sounds like this one I wrote. So
Sure.
I'm always trying to, like, change it up, but I'd say primarily, like, in the evening times, once my son goes to bed, my wife usually goes to bed, I'll sit down in my garage and I'll just do my best, you know?
Yeah.
And like I said, I'll write a whole song, and it's just pure garbage. Like, I'll see it the next morning, and I'll be like, that's never leaving this room, you know? But I'll always have it, and I'll always be like, hey, that's there.
That's cool. Well, I chuckle when you say sit in your garage, because I follow you on TikTok, and lots of posts are, you can tell that you're sitting in a garage playing.
Yeah. Well, I had a room upstairs, but when I get to play, it's across the hall from my son sleeping.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, where else can I go that's semi-soundproof,
Right.
With some lighting?
That's cool.
So I'll just sit in there and do my thing. But yeah, if you look at my TikTok, it's pretty much the last year and a half since we moved. It's all the same spot. Yeah, I should probably change it. It's probably not good for marketing.
You can hang a tapestry or something in the
Maybe
background.
put like a poster up or something.
There you go.
Or start rearranging stuff and make it a game.
Right,
Like a
exactly.
Where's Waldo type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
You mentioned John Prine as an influence. What are some of your other influences when it comes to either songwriting or performing or all of the above?
So obviously John Prine, and you know what's weird is I say him first because a lot of songwriters that I enjoy and like that I discovered before I discovered John Prine, like Jason Isbell, he's a huge influence on my music, and you know he's just very honest in his writing. I just like his style. He was a huge influence by John Prine. Chris Knight. Oh, okay. He's from Kentucky. He's got a different style, but I enjoy his writing as well. He tells a lot of stories, and I love story writing in songs. And Tyler Childers, I heard his Bottles and Bibles album when I was stationed overseas in Japan.
Yep.
And that was on repeat, and then got back to the States, and that was the year he released Purgatory, and then it was pretty much, I decided that's the kind of music I want to write.
Yeah.
I was still trying to figure out who I wanted to be as a songwriter. I was probably like 23 or 24, and I was like, that's the kind of music I want to write.
To be honest with you, I mean, when I listen to Tyler Childers, and you turned me on to him, I've never heard of him before. We talked about him. I hear him, and I hear a lot of his. Well, I hear you, and I hear a lot of his influence in you. Like even the tone of your voice is similar, in my opinion. Yeah. And then the guitar playing, I think, but you're definitely doing it in your own unique way.
Yeah.
But you can definitely hear the Tyler Childers influence. So if anybody out there's a fan of Tyler Childers, you will probably very much dig what Tim's doing.
Appreciate that. Yeah. He's definitely, like I said, like when I heard his music for the first time, kind of changed my perspective on like, people actually write this kind of music. They like it, because it was kind of like a mix of that, because I'm from where I'm from. It's like the upper Apple people in the South are gonna say, because we say Appalachian and they say Appalachian.
Right.
I've never heard that until I heard someone from the South say that, and I'm like, what are you talking about? But I'm from like the northern part of the Appalachian Mountains.
Right.
So
like central northern Pennsylvania.
Yeah, like central Pennsylvania. So like Harrisburg's kind of like east central. We're just north of there.
Okay.
Northeast of there.
Is that like Penn State country?
Kind of, yeah. So college wise, I grew up in an Irish Catholic family, so everybody was Notre Dame. But Penn State's a huge influence. The town's like split between like the Eagles and the Steelers.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
the halfway point.
Yeah, and then you get a couple Cowboys fans trickling in there.
Well, yeah, they're like, yeah.
It's always going to be their year before their year starts.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But yeah, so that was huge growing up there, and just the context of the music he was writing, it just felt like I could relate to it.
Nice. Yeah.
I don't want to say I grew up like poor by any means, but we didn't have money. We didn't go to Disneyland.
Sure.
We didn't do those kind of things when I was growing up. So, obviously I got a job young just so I had my own money. It wasn't like my parents weren't going to spare any expense. Not that they wouldn't have, but it's just they didn't have it, and I didn't want to have to ask them.
Sure. Yep.
So like having that, and hearing that, and then traveling the world and seeing the things I was able to see, I could tell we did have it pretty rough.
Right.
Things were a little bit more detached than the rest of the world. It always felt like it was always like a couple years behind everybody else.
Sure. Yeah, and when you say travel the world, that's because you're in the military. You're a Marine.
Yes.
How long have you been in the military?
So I joined at 18, right out of high school. I did 12 years full time, so active duty. And then I just I don't want to say I fell out of love with it, but I just feel I wasn't given that part of my life 100%, and I don't think that that's something you shouldn't be in that line of work if you're not going to give it 100%.
Sure.
Especially like in the roles I was in as a leader.
Yep.
Because you have young guys that look up to you to make decisions, and if you're not making the best decision for them because you're not happy about where you are, then it's probably time for you to go. So I switched over to the reserve side, so part-time, 1 weekend a month type of thing, and it's been pretty good. It allowed me to go to school, pursue things, move back closer to home, which was nice.
Yep.
So,
what places have you seen? Like where have you been stationed, and how have those areas may have affect your musicianship or songwriting?
So I got lucky. My first duty station was near San Diego, California. I was young.
Nice.
You definitely you stick an 18 to 20-year-old in San Diego, California.
Sure.
It's trouble.
Yeah.
But it was cool because that's where I started writing music. Was there, because I was in a barracks room, couldn't really go anywhere and do much, didn't have a car.
Right.
So I started writing music there, and it was cool because that's where I started getting my first opportunities to play gigs. Oh,
nice. I was going to ask you when you started gigging, but go ahead.
Yeah, I would say like officially, like paid gig was when I was stationed out in California. I did a couple showcases, free things and stuff.
Open mics, stuff
open
like
mics,
that.
Yeah. They have a country music association in California out there in Temecula, and that was cool because I got to play on a stage there in front of people. There's a guy actually, his name's Pat Trampus. he let me come. He plays, like, he sings national anthem for Padres games. He's all over, like, the Central Valley over there, El Cajon. Really good dude. Shout out to you. But he, let me play with him a few times.
Oh, that's cool.
Open up some stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was kind of my foot in the door. And then I got stationed in Japan after that. And, I'll be honest, I played quite a few gigs when I got to Japan.
Did you?
Yeah, we had
cool.
Yeah, we had a bar there called Teasers.
Mm-hmm.
The owner was an American guy who lives in Japan.
Okay.
And he, let me play there. I probably played there half a dozen times while I was there, which was cool.
Yeah. Go.
But yeah, so there, and then I got stationed on recruiting duty. So I did that for 3 years in Pennsylvania, and I pretty much stopped playing music because I was immersed in it. Like it was long days, long hours. It wasn't a lot of fun. I mean, the people I was, misery loves company, so I made a lot of good friends.
Yeah.
And, we had, fun times in itself, sure. But the duty itself took me away from a lot of the things that I really enjoyed doing.
Right.
I would say probably like 2019 is when I got back into music.
Okay.
It was probably right before COVID.
So how long of a hiatus away from music then?
Probably like 3 years.
Wow, okay.
I still played. I
Sure.
still posted covers here and there, but I didn't really play. I probably got my first gig again in 2019.
Okay.
I played in my hometown a few times because I was only maybe about an hour and a half from there.
Right.
And then COVID hit, and I was on the tail end of my recruiting tour. The military wasn't sending anybody anywhere. They weren't letting us leave. I was supposed to leave like 3 days after the lockdown had hit. So
Okay.
It was like, March,
Yeah.
whatever it was.
Yeah, March of 2020.
Yeah,
Yep.
so it was like March 14th, and I was
Yep.
supposed to leave March 17th.
Oh,
and then
wow,
they
yeah.
stopped it. Like, our house was pretty much in boxes, and they were like, you can't leave.
Wow.
And we didn't end up leaving till around June.
So you kind of lucked out because you were kind of close to home where you were stationed at the time?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, I was in the Poconos.
Okay.
So it's like an hour and a half from where I grew up. So it was the
Right.
closest to home. That's
Okay.
still the closest to home I've lived.
Yeah.
Since I left high school. So.
Wow.
But yeah, no, and COVID happened, and then I started posting on Instagram or whatever it was at the time, and then I started. That was, like I said, I heard Childers' Purgatory album, 17, and just fell in love with that. And I kind of took a deep dive down into that rabbit hole of his music, and like Coulter Wall and Sturgill Simpson, all these dudes that just, they had this uniqueness to them.
Sure.
Kind of like an outlaw resurgence, I like to think of it as.
Yep.
Like the Waylon Jennings, the Willie Nelsons of the 70s.
Sure.
It's this resurgence of this kind of music. And when I started writing again, I said, that's the kind of music like I want to write. That's the kind of music I see myself playing because I just liked it. So,
Nice.
Yeah, I started writing then in 2020. Then we moved to North Carolina. We were there for about 2 years and change, and then really started writing, really started picking up gigs, as much as I could. Some 1-2 a month. I'm still pretty slow with the gigs. I have that. People ask me all the time. I just, you got to make choices. And right now.
Well, sure. I mean, for those of you that don't know, your son's young, and being a dad takes a lot of time. That's for sure. And you've certainly got some priorities, and that's admirable.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Played down there and then moved up here to New Jersey in 2022. That was like 2 or 3 months before my son was born, and we've been here since. So met you.
Yeah,
I think the second or third month I moved here.
Yeah. Shout out to Core 3 Brewing Company. That's where I met Tim. They were having their open mic there, and he showed up, and it was like, oh my God, this guy's incredible. So yeah, we became friends, and I invited him to an open mic, Harper's Pub in Clementon, that I used to frequent quite a bit. That sadly has since shut down, but yeah, Tim and I have been friends for ever since 2022, and that's he was kind of getting back into it and gigging regular, and I was just kind of starting out my musical journey. So yeah, it was nice. We got to kind of bond over a few different things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then now I'm here on a podcast.
You're on a podcast, very first episode. So thank you for agreeing to do this.
Yep.
I did want to ask you a little bit. We've covered kind of your influences, your military background. So tell me a little bit about you kind of got signed. Tell me about what's the name of the the record company or label. Tell me of that story.
Okay. So when I got out of the service, full time, I should say, I was working for a concrete manufacturing company, and I'll be honest, it was probably I had this expectation that getting out of the military, there's going to be this light at the end of the tunnel. It's going to solve all my problems. Well, your new baby, all that kind of stuff. So I was not in like a really good headspace. The job in itself wasn't bad, and I had worked with some good people, but it was just like, hey, now I feel like I'm bottom man on the totem pole. But so Mike Corrado, I had known of Mike through mutual friends that we had. He was a colonel in the Marine Corps. He had done a lot with music back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Hootie and the Blowfish, style music. Mike was really, I think he was on pace to be really big with that. And then, he did the selfless choice when 9/11 happened, and he came back in the military. So he had gotten out, but he, went back into it. But when he retired, he wanted to start a record label. So he started A Hero Records, which is part of a bigger organization called A Hero. Forgive me. It's basically of veterans and outdoor activities and stuff like that. But his branch of it, he and his friend John, they started this record label essentially for military veterans, first responders. Those people that, like myself, were just too busy to drop everything and pursue music, but had this talent. Because there's a lot of guys.
Sure.
I can name 10 guys that I know that are vets or or currently serving. They're just talent. They got all this talent, and they just have so much that they can offer. But Mike, like I said, selfless guy that he is, started this record label, and when he first started, he was working on getting property. Now he has a place in Tennessee, in Shelbyville, just south of Nashville, called Harmony Hill. We stayed there, did some recording and stuff. But yeah, no, I signed with them, and they've just been helping me out a lot musically. They put out my last couple of songs. Like the one that was just out was actually recorded 2022.
Okay.
Vocals were recorded in 2022. We got some stuff working. Part of it's on me being such a busy guy, trying to find time to get back down to Tennessee. But yeah, they've done so much for the veteran community, and they continue to do it. And their cause is, you see a lot of big record labels are about what's going to sell, and for them it's how do we showcase the talent of these guys.
That's awesome.
And they believed in me, have brought me out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what do they help you with? Without getting into the nitty gritty details, what does that mean that they kind of signed you or whatever? Did they help you record and put out music basically?
Mostly recording, production.
Okay.
But all my songs are mine. But they help me with the production piece.
Nice.
Social media, they put some stuff out. Again, not the best with social media. I should probably figure that out.
I did see you had 2 videos on TikTok go viral, which I want to talk about in a minute.
I did,
but,
semi-viral, I guess. Yeah.
Well, the one was like 90,000 views or something like that. I think.
That was I didn't expect that. That's a funny story.
Well, let's talk about it real quick. Okay. So I was scrolling through your TikTok, and the one. Your son was just a baby, and he was struggling to stay awake, and he kept falling asleep. And you've got him, and you're like, "Hey, wake up! You got Firewatch." And I was dying. I thought it was so funny. And then there's another one. You're doing a song about, I don't know if it's original or a cover, but some G.I. Joe something or other.
Yeah.
Tell me about that one.
So that was an original song that I
wrote.
wrote.
It was? Yep. Wow. So you had an original song go viral. That's pretty awesome.
I did, yeah. It was
That's
pretty
awesome.
cool. I think it was the context. I was driving home from work, and I had this line pop in my head, and it was G.I. Joe was a fighting man. He got his scars in Afghanistan, spent a couple of years fighting the Taliban out there in the Middle East. And it was just like
amazing.
that rhyme in itself was like, I got to write something to it. Yeah. And so I just continued to write it. And, I came out with a first verse and a chorus, I think, for that video. And I didn't honestly, I thought it was like any other video. Like it was just going to get a couple hundred views or 1,000. I wasn't like a rock star on TikTok or anything.
Yep.
But ended up getting like 100,000 views on it.
Awesome.
I was like, wow.
But like, what happens when a video goes viral? Like, does your phone just blow up? Like, what happens?
It overheats. No, it's pretty wild. Just like this is when I was living in an apartment when we first moved to Jersey. So, I'd record in my bedroom at the time. We didn't have a garage or anything, and I recorded it at night. You know, my son was a baby, so I recorded it at night and posted it, put my phone down, went to sleep. I woke up in the morning, and it was just like, boom, like all these like notifications on my phone.
Right.
I was like, oh my gosh. And then it was just like, it continues. So when you go viral, like things like that, I was getting just random likes and stuff on that video for, it had to have been a month.
Really?
Yeah, it was like people were seeing it at different times and people were sharing it. And like, you know, I've gotten a lot of questions about that song in particular. I still, like, it was probably a couple weeks ago, someone, and this is 2 years ago I posted that, I think. Someone commented, like, are you going to finish G.I. Joe? Yeah.
That's awesome.
I have, like, a second verse written.
Yeah.
You know, like me, I'm not a combat wounded veteran. Like, I'm not, you know, it wasn't a biographical song. Sure. It was just a context to the song. But yeah, essentially the character, you know, joins the military, goes to war, comes home, gets, you know, prescribed medication. They say he doesn't need the medication. Then he just goes into a downward spiral and starts doing drugs and alcohol.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Things. Yeah, so the context of the song it is in that sense, you know, sometimes the problems start with one thing and end with another.
Makes sense. Yeah. Now, do you have any other? So we've covered TikTok. You're on. Are you on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and all that stuff?
Yep. Yep. I have a Facebook page, Tim Murray. It used to be Tim Murray Music, but I think it's just Tim Murray. And then Instagram's Tim Murray Music. TikTok's Tim Murray Music, and I think YouTube's Tim Murray Music.
Okay. Let's see. Is there anything else you want to kind of promote or talk about? Anything you want other people to know about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. Me personally, you just gotta continue to do the thing. I think that's the biggest piece. A lot of people get frustrated. A lot of people get tired, and you know, there's periods where I hung it up, and, you know, but don't ever stop completely. Even if you're just playing for yourself in your bedroom, and just you know, music has a healing power to it. I really believe that. It saved me from some of the darkest parts of my life, and it continues to do that. And
sure.
You know, I think you just need to continue to play. And you know, if this is, you know, another songwriter or somebody, you know, just trying to take the first step, like go to an open mic. I promise you, a lot of times people there are musicians, and we're never gonna laugh at you. We're never gonna poke fun at you. You know, we're gonna support you. We're gonna clap. We're gonna give our undivided attention to you, because that's just how the community is.
Yep.
It's better to find out that way at an open mic than it is to accept your first paid gig at a bar and then you just get heckled. You know?
Right.
So come out and try that out for a while and have fun with it and keep learning and keep doing it. And there's a saying. I had a teacher in school, and I'll end with that. Mr. Bob Davis, and he was an older gentleman back then. I think he has passed away. I don't know. But, you know, he had played amateur baseball, all this kind of stuff. But he used to say this thing, damn what people think. And it always resonated with me, you know, because you can do things, but, you know, and you might think what people are going to think about me, but damn what people think, you know.
Yeah.
They're going to have opinions. People are going to have opinions. Some people are going to think you're the best. Some people are going to say you suck.
That's right.
That's just life.
Yeah.
Just be yourself.
Absolutely. Good stuff.
So this is one I wrote a little while ago. It's called Learning How to Lose. Made a mess of everything I've touched. I spend too much time betting on good luck. I watch it slip right through my fingers like smoke, and memory lingers. And will enough finally be enough? And I can't stand the man inside my mirror. And as my vision blurs, his reflection just gets clear. But what is there to say when you're out of cards to play, and you've gone and lost the only thing you love? Well, I don't want to live this way, but I know now why you said no when I begged you to stay. I'm sick and tired of being such a fool. When will I be through? Learning how to lose. I could blame it on circumstance, I guess. I'll tell a lie and say I went and tried my best, like there was nothing I could do. But we both know that ain't true. 'Cause if it wasn't, maybe I would still have you. And I don't want to live this way, but I know now why you said no when I begged you to stay. I'm sick and tired of being such a fool. When will I be through? Learning how to lose. Learning how to lose. I guess I just do it to myself. I can't keep on blaming someone else. Maybe if I try, get another lease on life, I'll finally learn what winning's all about. 'Cause I don't want to live this way, and I know now why you said no when I begged you to stay. I'm sick and tired being such a fool. When will I be through? Learning how to lose.
Woo-hoo. Nice.
Cool.
Awesome.